השם מפחד שממצבו נץ מפחד שנסקי פרואט אקרו כל החבי צפורותו יקצבי דתי פלישיה הנה די תורצ'י וסאולותו אוי דנגלידה ללודה ג'אנה בכל מדשל דנגלידה ללודה שני מפחד שממצבו יקרון שבתי פלישיה והתחילה אותו מנתאו הייתי צ'וסטי למפיתי כמו שביתי לא תאכל דבו אוי דנגלידה ללודה ג'אנה בכל מדשל דנגלידה ללודה שני מפחד שממצבו שנרו מינתי תוצ'י תפל ודאוצ'בי סחשיאבו סבא מוכנתי סיינות וחלוסי מחשיאבו אוי דנגלידה ללודה ג'אנה בכל מדשל דנגלידה ללודה שני מפחד שממצבו אוי דנגלידה ללודה ג'אנה בכל מדשל דנגלידה ללודה שני מפחד שממצבו אוי דנגלידה ללודה ג'אנה בכל מדשל דנגלידה ללודה שני מפחד שממצבו
Greetings and welcome from TBILISI, Georgia. This is Bern. There's the list, and I've got some new news to put up there in a moment, and we'll talk about that. But greetings from Georgia, and it is starting to get a little darker here. Let me open the window. This is going to be a really casual bit here because I didn't tell anybody I was doing this. I mostly feel like I have to let a few people know that this is going on. And, oh, that's quite bright, isn't it? I'm like the flaming, oh, what can I do? Okay, well, such is life. I have to continue doing my crowdfunder. Maybe I can get that halfway doing that. Though I'll be adjusting the light because these cheap cameras on laptops, they overcompensate for light. And that's not a good thing, is it? But anyway, between yesterday, around this time of day, and then we had a fundraiser last night, but more money has come in. So we're up $500 from where we were yesterday. And I just thought I would share that. And part of the reason for coming on earlier like this is maybe there are people in Europe or waking up early in the US on the East Coast and maybe the Central Time, maybe people in Argentina or Brazil or let's see, what's the time zone differentiation here between us and I know India's still alive, and let's see. Sydney, it's about 12 midnight. You'd have to be from Perth probably to get in on this. But anyway, you get what I'm saying. I'm trying to, I have to continue to be annoying because evidently it works, you see. That's the point. I learned this fundraising when I worked at KHNS Radio back in Alaska. That is that you have to keep reminding people. You don't get anything because for you, this is, okay, Bern's doing this stuff again. But as soon as you turn, you go away, you don't think about it much anymore. And it isn't unless I kind of prod you. And the thing to remember is that, and I'm saying this for people who have a little bit more money and want to contribute. If you give through GoFundMe, that's tax deductible. And if you were going to give your some funds to a kind of a more, what shall we say, impersonal corporate type of outfit, something like that, consider giving it to me here, because I promise you I will be doing something with that money. And you can get a tax deductible write-off. And that's particularly if you go through GoFundMe, or you can go through PayPal. I'm sure you can find a way to get a tax deduction off of that as well. But so here we are. I have absolutely no plans. Often I have a plan, but this time I just said to myself, let me just go and hang out for a while and see what kind of support we can drum up. And in a moment or two here, I will give us the upgraded amount. Don't you want to see what it is? Teaser. Spoiler, it's more. So I'll give you the upgraded amount on how much that will be. So what are we doing? Well, yeah, I used to work at the radio station in Alaska. And working up to the fundraiser there was a big deal during the year, because we had to essentially we got matching money from the federal government, and there were other different NGO sources, public radio, which is different than the national government and such. The whole public radio thing there is kind of a mess. And unfortunately, it's just, when I was working in Alaska, I could get away with murder because no one was listening. But now that you have, the radio is obviously now being streamed as well as going out to the general public, people are much more concerned about what if you say the wrong thing. And when I was doing stuff in Alaska, I didn't care. I said all sorts of, I played all sorts of music, did all sorts of things, not to offend people, but to edify them, to give them something of substance. And often the NPR programs, National Public Radio programs, just go on and on and on. And they do the predictable thing. Sometimes the news is okay, but I would hate to be listening to it as my only source of news now. And so, but what I did working at the radio station was I indeed did learn how to raise money through these fundraisers. And the main thing was we would do it for a whole week. I mean, if I'm doing it for, this is over a month now, but it was the kind of thing, it would drive me nuts, especially since I was responsible for doing that. That meant I had to get people in to do DJ shows and do fundraising. They would bring other people in, but sometimes there wouldn't be anybody, so it'd be Bern again doing it. And evidently, I can talk for a very, very long time, as you will see. After a while, you just lose your shame. And I think I've passed the point in this, which I was at last night for certain, where you start to just go like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And I think the reason I've passed that point is because then and now I've gotten more than $500. So that means that I'll give us an actual amount in a moment, but it means we're over $8,800. Only about I'll let us know exactly what the amount is in a moment here, but only 3,000, 3,000, I haven't done the number yet, but we'll just say $3,200 to go. So that's like, oh, we're there. We started at 1,200. Now the big question is, can I get it by January 31st? And as I explained on the video that I did yesterday, I am under new pressures to get it done by then. I can't just drag this out and drag it out. I don't want to drag it out either. I'm frankly getting tired. This is work. This is also this thing in your head that's just like, what if I don't get there? What if I do? You just feel it. And, I wake up in the middle of the night saying, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that. I should contact that. No, maybe not, and you go back and forth. So I need a corporate sponsor, or not a corporate sponsor, but a business sponsor, someone who has a business who says, oh, we'll give you this. Oh, we can write it off on GoFundMe. Great. And do I know anyone? I'll have to think about that. Anyway, so that's where we are. I'm going to give us an update on everything in a moment. I'm kind of waiting for the light to do something. Who we got there? Professor Luigi, good to see you. Yes, God will get me through. I am not worried about it. We just got another 500 in the last day. all we have to do is get 3,000 more or so in the next week or so. I mean, I can go a little over January 31st, but really, I got to put the pressure on for that. So I am going to play another bit of Georgian music. And just a reminder, if you give $50 or more, you'll get 50 rare. Try to find these Georgian music files. And if you give $100, I've got 4 sets of 50. So at each $50 increment, so if you're up to $200, you'll get 200 Georgian music files, which is like, I wish I had that when I was first starting to understand Georgian music and culture. So okay, we just heard a group, Chweneberebi, which means our people, and they were also singing with Leila Nakauri. She and her sister are wonderful musicians, and I'll play a little bit more. I think let's play somebody else here. Who have we got? This is just a group of, this is just a group of 4 people, 3 girls and a guy singing. And what it shows you is that the Georgians, as my friend John Graham says, just naturally have to sing in harmonies. And they've been singing in not only harmonies, but polyphonies as long as anybody knows. And some people say that their Christianity is completely connected to their polyphonies, in the sense that Christianity seems to almost invite harmony. Maybe it's the concept of the Trinity, or the concept of harmonic resolutions, which are embedded in the music, but there you are. So let's listen to just these are like teenagers or early 20-somethings just sitting around singing. Let's do that. Then we'll be back and I'll give you an official update on where we are. Okay, so Georgian youth singing their traditional songs. And what's funny is whenever I talk to Georgians, no matter how modern they seem, they are, they always know folk songs. And I would say to a degree that would be very hard for us in the West to understand because we've just gotten so far removed from them. Well, I've got some news here. More is going on. So let's, while we were talking, Caleb, thank you out there, passed on some funds as well. Let's see what we're doing here on the big board. Okay, so the big project, $12,000. We got the $6,000 freighter cost. We got the $2,000 barge cost. We're closing in on the truck and truck customs charge here in Georgia, and we still have to get the airplane tickets. So what do we got? Well, we've had people giving money. My good friend Keith gave money a couple of days ago. Megan from Italy, Mary Schubert from Oklahoma, Michael Stasovich, who I don't think is here yet, but he tends to give these little amounts. He gave like $8. Mary gave $200. Nick Evans gave $100 yesterday, and Richard Lund, who has already given, has double or triple dipped here and given another $200. I have to go and look at my my bookkeeping to see how many Georgian music files I've sent him, but he's certainly getting more, or the full load. I know he hasn't gotten the full load. And Caleb just gave $100. So what that means is between yesterday about this time and today, we've gotten over $600. That's really good news. So that means that we now only need $1,058 to get the truck and customs money. We're closing in on that, and then it's just the $2,000 for the tickets. So, jeepers. It pays to be annoying sometimes. Let me get back on here. Like I said, what I've learned is you have to kind of be annoying. What can I tell you? Is life is strange that way. People often, I remember we were doing a fundraiser back in Alaska one year, and I was doing what I'm doing now, except I was doing it for the radio station, obviously. And as I was doing it, you'd have to just go in, you'd play some music, and then you'd talk for a long. And the person who normally wants, music is going like, "Oh, come on, Bern, stop talking. Give us more music." And of course, I've got music I could play you all day. But the point is, people don't give when you play the music. They give when you talk and bother them. It's just a weird psychological thing I've learned. And so it seems that, no, there was this one guy who came on and said, "Okay, well, I'm going to make money without talking." And so he came on and just did a music set, and every now and then he would say, "Give money," and that. Guess what? Didn't make anything hardly, because that's how it works. Psychology is a very strange thing. How we are motivated and why we are motivated. Anyway, so jeepers. Basically, it's about $3,000 to the end here, from $12,000 originally down to $3,000. $1,058 to get the truck and customs money done. Wonderful. So that's where we are. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like we're going to get there. And the main thing is, can I get there by the 31st? And the reason why the 31st is so important is I should be buying tickets now. The only reason I'm not buying tickets now is because, I could just say, well, the money will come and I'll just go buy the tickets now. But if I do that and they don't come through, then what have I got? You see, you're left. What happens? So I've collected all this money. Well, obviously, I'm not going to return it. No one gave it to me as a pledge that I have to return. But I've got to be responsible with it. I mean, I'm not just collecting money to make money, much as I'd like to. Wouldn't it be great? if I could just do this and make money. But instead, I'm doing this, like I said, everything I'm collecting here will just disappear into the travel shipping system because it's all necessary. And, there's no way around it. I'm not going to end up with a dime left over from this. So, dime for those of you in Europe, 10 cents. But here's the thing. So the problem is the closer I need to leave here, probably I'm thinking about the 5th or 6th of March, which means I've got about a month and a half right now. Now, if you know anything about airline ticketing, the closer you get to the day, the price actually goes up for those last tickets. It's really gotten kind of devious. So what I'm doing is I am trying my hardest to get the money. I think if I get over $10,000, I'm going to go ahead and buy the tickets because I'm going to trust that the last 2,000 will come in. But I just don't feel I can do it until then. And there's just so many practical things to think about. Plus, I've got to put on this puppet festival later this year in October. But you know what? If you don't try things in life, if you don't challenge yourself, and believe me, this whole moving thing is a challenge. I mean, it was a challenge just to come live in Georgia. To get my stuff here, I can't even tell you the order of magnitude challenge that is. Especially given the fact that I am not well heeled. So if anyone has any questions out there, I see we've got a few people watching. Feel free to ask, or at least give me a greeting. Say hello. Where are you from? I'm in Tbilisi, Georgia. That's where I'm from. And meanwhile, I am waiting for the next donation. That's really good, but we're not done. And it's like you get to one thing and you go, okay, we can get to the next one. This is exactly why I did the $6,000 freighter cost first. Because, when you just say, okay, we've got a $2,000 truck and customs bill, that feels doable. But if right now I was saying we're still trying to get the 6,000, that would not feel doable. So let me, I've got a weird little clip or two here. I figured, what kind of life did you have in Alaska, Bern? Well, it was quite an interesting life. I used to drive trucks for tourism, and I would go into these weird back roads. I'd see animals all the time. Bears, big brown bears, big moose. Let's see, I've seen porcupines and otters and mink in the trees. And I saw a mountain lion on the side of the road once, which was really weird because they're not supposed to be in Alaska yet, but they're on their way. And but I just want to show you, this is just a 45-second clip of what some of the roads look like when I'm driving buses, but it's kind of got a surprise to it. So give it a watch. We'll be back in just a second. Links below, PayPal or GoFundMe. GoFundMe if you want the tax-deductible receipt, or if you're in a weird country. Yeah, I love that. I purposely, I was on this road. It was a couple kilometers long, about a mile or so, and I would drop people off and put them on rafts with the rafting guides. Then I would drive back alone on these desolate roads. And so one day I knew the road really well, so I just put my camera down on the ground and then walked way off with the bus, and then drove over it. And it was it's a nice view because you're not quite expecting the camera to be driven over. So there you are, my life in Alaska. And so from way out in the middle of nowhere to what seems to me like the center of the universe here. Not the center in terms of the busiest place or the most well-known place, but if you look at a map, Jerusalem's very near like the center. We're also in that same general area. And Tbilisi, Georgia is a place, because it's like two valleys that are like this. You have the huge high Caucasus here, then you have the more gentle sloping lesser Caucasus here. Don't let that fool you. The high Caucasus go up to like 15,000 feet, 5,000 meters. And the lesser Caucasus go up to around, what is it, about 12,000 feet, about 4,000 meters. It's pretty intense stuff. But the difference is when you're driving from here, we're kind of on the side of, we're kind of in the middle of the valley. We're on the side of the lesser Caucasus. And we're up a little bit in elevation. And we're certainly not at sea level. We're probably about, I don't know, maybe 1,500 feet up, about 500 or more of 600 meters up. But if you go behind me, and I've showed this in videos, some of the videos I've done. If you go behind me, it's kind of like I can walk up to, there's a ridge right behind me. And I've always lived against this ridge since I've been here. And if you go up it, it's a great place to hike. And there are some cool ways to get up there, buses and a kind of a gondola or, a tramway, or they call it a ropeway here that goes up in a, one of those little cable car things. And then you can go up there and you get to the top of the ridge, and you know what you see? Another ridge further on. And you get to the top of that ridge, and what do you see? Another ridge further on. So the lesser Caucasus just kind of gradually keep rising and rising and rising. Whereas the lesser Caucasus do that. The greater Caucasus, it's just like you hit a wall and they go. And at a certain point, you're driving along, yeah, you get a little elevation, and then suddenly you're just cutting back and forth to go up. So let me play a little bit more music for you here. Reminder that Georgian music is something you will get if you give me more than $100. So Caleb, I don't know if you got any Georgian music, but you're going to get some more. So I remember you are double dipping. You are getting the MVP award here. But let's listen to one of the Nakauri sisters. This is Nina with her group called Satano. It looks like Satano, but they don't say the th sound. So it's like sat with a Satano. And they're playing in Israel, and it's a really beautiful song. And we'll play that, then we'll be back. Reminder, PayPal and GoFundMe links are in the description below. Use them.
Shadi
Oh, great stuff. And the accordion player singer there is Nino Nakauri, who is one of the voices you will get in the, if you give more than $50 for the 50 rare Georgian music files. So I love her accordion style. And she gets a very chromatic effect out of it. And the Georgian accordions are called garmonis. And they're tuned a bit differently than most normal accordions. I think they're on a, they have, I don't know. I'm suspecting it's more chromatic. And yeah, wonderful stuff. So, for those of you just tuning in, we indeed have raised up to $600 more since yesterday at this time of day for me. And I'm just going to be here hanging out because I want to get people at a different time of day, because you never know when you're going to get different kinds of people coming in and saying, hello, what's going on? As you can see, my lighting has changed, and it's going to continue to change because the sun is going down, and I'm trying to find the right, mixture of light and natural light. So I turned on one unnatural light over here. It's weird. It's kind of ethereal looking. I'm turning blue. But I'll turn this other light on in a bit, and then I'll look all yellow. Such is funky lighting when you have a funky channel like this one. And who else is out there? Anyone want to say hello? Feel free to. And if you have a question, feel free to ask. I'm certainly taking questions. And if you're really brave, I'm doing this on StreamYard, which means if you want to come on and talk live, feel free to do that. I really appreciate that, especially doing this, because while evidently I can talk forever, it does help to have people to talk to, people to bounce back and forth from. So if you're interested in that, let me know in the chat, and I will send you I will let you know what the link is to get on. So yeah, we only need $1,058 to go from the $2,000 truck and customs budget. So that's doable. And then can I make can I make $3,000 by the 31st here? That's a good question, which means I'm going to be ridiculously annoying trying to raise that money, because like I said, I have to get the amount, and the only way I can do it is just to keep coming on and appealing to you. I don't know if I appeal to you, but you know what I mean. So let's listen to some other kind of music here. What do we got? I often find a bit of music and then say, well, let's play this or let's play that. There was an old pop hit. I'm trying to think. I think this was officially the first like electronic pop hit. Electronic, I wouldn't call it a dance song, but yeah, I suppose you could find a dance to this. And it was called Popcorn. And the group was called Hot Butter. Actually, there was an earlier version that wasn't a hit by the person who wrote the tune, and his name was Gershon Kingsley. But this weird anonymous entity called Hot Butter did a song called Popcorn. And you can tell from just the name, it wasn't really a group. But what's interesting about that tune, I don't know if you remember it, but you'll be hearing it in a moment. What's interesting about that tune is, although it was done as an electronic song, and it was really kind of rinky-dink, but there's something about the song that really sounds traditional. The tune itself has this traditional sound. And so I've heard numerous versions of this over the years, and we're about to hear some kind of country folk musicians doing an instrumental version. It is an instrumental song. And the name of this group is Brandywine, and they're doing Popcorn all acoustically, which to me is a great way to get the song back from the kind of toy-like quality of the original hit, which I do like, but this is also really cool.
Just gonna go for it here.
There you are. The old electronic hit from the early 1970s, Popcorn, originally done by Hot Butter. And for those of you just tuning in, as I'm just kind of casually hanging out, and I'll take questions, feel free to write hello, where you're from if you want to. Just to let you know, we are trying to get to $12,000, and this is done in manageable chunks. So the first big chunk was the $6,000 freighter cost from Seattle, Washington to the Black Sea in Georgia, which has become more of an issue for me because I realize now that I was thinking, and the way I think it used to work before everything got screwed up because of the pandemic, was that it would take about a month and a half to get here. Now it's seeming like it's going to take 2.5 to 3 months, which puts a lot of pressure on me because I have a temporary, a 5-year residence permit here, which comes due in July. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to make it with that, but I'm not 100% sure. And what I was told by the shippers, Lasare, is that it would really be helpful if I had that residence permit still. So 3 months from March when I get in there is going to be June. I just hope I make it, which is why I have the January 31st deadline now, as I can no longer, I was thinking a month and a half ago, okay, plenty of time, it'll arrive in May. No, it's going to be more like June now. So if you want to help out, the links are below, GoFundMe and PayPal. But the next chunk of the cost was the $2,000 I'll need in Haines, Alaska. We're way up, Alaska. Let's see if I can do this one here. Well, it's kind of difficult. Anyway, Alaska is. Oh, hey, Tile. Good to hear from you. Alaska's up. Haines is up a fjord above Juneau in what's called Southeast Alaska, which is really ironic because it's northwest of everything else in America. And but fortunately, Haines is right on the coast. It's on this fjord, and so there's a shipping line right there. So what I'm going to do is get them to bring over a container. I load it up. I think I have 3 days to load it up, and then they ship it off. Although it has to be shipped off on the right day. So if I, for instance, I think the deadline is Friday at noon. If I take it on Saturday, it means it's going to sit in Haines for a whole, 6 days or so. Then it's going to, oh, you just donated on GoFundMe. I didn't read the fine print. Okay, I'll check it out. But anyway, so that's happening. And, oh, nice. So that's happening. And then we've got that money, the money to get it 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers down the west coast of Alaska, British Columbia, and the to Seattle, the Puget Sound area. If you look on the coast on a map, which I would highly recommend, actually, I should find some maps. I don't know how I could use them, but I could work it out. If you do that, then you will see that there is it's called the Inside Passage. The boats coming down the coast largely stay within the islands, away from the heavy flow of the sea, except for one area called the Queen's Charlotte Sound, which I've been on that on the ferry, and you just feel the swells of the ocean suddenly get really big for about an hour or two, and then you're finally through it. But so we've got that 2,000. So we've got the 6,000 for the freighter, the 2,000 for the barge. Now we're working on what happens when it comes to the coast here. I'm about a 5-6 hour drive from the coast where I live. Tbilisi is not right on the coast, so it goes to this little, medium-sized city called Poti. And at Poti, the train is there. So they're either going to put it on the train or they're going to pick it up with a truck and bring it out to near the airport here. Then it goes through customs. Either that or I'm going to have to go to Poti and go through customs there. And so we're going to do that. So we are only $1,008 by the time we're done with Tayo's contribution to getting the customs paid. So actually, and then we have the $2,000 I'm going to need for the tickets. Like I said, the longer I wait, the more expensive the air tickets are going to get, because I really have to be there near the beginning, not the right beginning of March. See, I've got another problem. What if winter goes on too long in Alaska, which could make things difficult? But you know what? It's a great challenge, and I'm enjoying it. I'm going to shift over here and go to the other camera and get my trusty little pen. And right now, we just got $50 from our friend Tayo. And that's wonderful. And so Tayo's also going to get his 50 Georgian music files. So that means we now only need, okay, so we now only need $1,008. This is where Michael Stasovich should come in handy to pay the $8 since he likes to do that. We need $1,008 to get the $2,000 truck and customs fee I was just telling you about. I have to get the hard part is getting through customs. And then they have to hire a work crew to bring it to me here and drag all the boxes up one flight of stairs. And I don't even want to think about that. It's just too crazy. So there we are, $1,008 away from the customs and truck money. And then we need $2,000 more for my airplane ticket so I can go and deal with all this stuff in Alaska. Okay, we're really dark here. How's that? Yeah, it's a little too bright. Let's see if I can change that lighting structure a bit. We'll leave it there. It'll get darker. Okay, so this is actually my favorite time of day. Thank you, Tayo. I really appreciate the help. And actually, Tayo, if you ever want to come on again and talk, if you want to come on now, if you have time, or I'm going to do this again. Actually, I'll write you. I'm going to send out a few emails. I'm going to do this on Sunday again, but we'll do an official one, and I'm going to have some people come on, maybe have you come on, and some other people who like music and talk about music and such. So let's think about that. But yeah, so I'm feeling good. I need $3,000. Like I said, the 31st is my goal because I need to get the tickets as soon as possible. But basically, I think once I get to $10,000, I'm going to go ahead and buy the tickets. I just feel like, okay, that's like a safe zone. I'll get the other 2,000. But I can't. I'm not getting ahead of myself and doing that. So there is a link below for PayPal, and there is a link below for GoFundMe, and GoFundMe will work sometimes better in zones that PayPal may not work in, and vice versa. I've had one person pay through GoFundMe here in Georgia, which is interesting because I don't think Georgia likes PayPal very much, and not unless you're on a VPN. But then the question is, how do you connect to the banks here? Because I've tried to connect my Georgian bank with PayPal, and they look at me really suspiciously, like, "What are you doing? We don't want Georgian banks on PayPal." So where are we? Trying to get from Alaska to here. Let me show you another short tidbit about Alaska, and this is a thing called a fish wheel. And I would drive the buses up the road, and I would do this. Now, I worked for about 10 years at the radio station there, and then about 12 years in the summers working with tourism, and I did other things in the winters, including about once every 3 winters in that 12-year period going to Europe to investigate puppetry and do interviews with people. But one of the things we would do is we would stop and we would look at this thing called the fish wheel. Now, the fish wheel is this device which is running very slowly. It's run by the current. It's not run. Actually, let me just go ahead and show it to you, and I can talk over it. It's a very strange little device. And let's see if we.
I'm Marco Werman. This is The World. European officials and bankers struggled today to come up with a second bailout for Greece. Time's running short. A summit to prevent the debt crisis from spreading.
Okay. Oh, I see. This is something I made, put it together. So let me just let you watch this thing, and then I'll come back on and talk in a bit.
I'm here to greet you and answer questions.
That's the kind of bus I drove. And this is the fish wheel here. And what this fish wheel did, we would stop sometimes and just watch these when we had a few minutes to kill before taking the people back to these cruise ships. The fish wheel is powered by the current. And what it is it's a device for counting fish.
But the way these things work,
and this is one of the guides talking about the fish.
there's no motor on that thing.
Let's see if we can hear him.
Take a picture now while you're still.
I did.
Oh,
Thank
perfect.
you. Here you go.
And the water, exactly. This water that's coming downriver, you can see, look at this log floating down. That logger dial. That's it's turning the wheel, making it turn. Now, what happens is the fish are coming upriver. That's what fish do. They swim upriver, of course. And they get scooped up in that scoop. They ride like a Ferris wheel. They ride to the top, and they get waterboarded on that piece of board. You see that board there? And they slide down the hill, or slide down the board into that green tube. And then they go down to the bottom, which is a fish hole. You can see the holes in the bottom, right? And water can pass through there with oxygen in it, and the fish are in there. They're just waiting. Now, once a day, the Fish and Game, Department of Fish and Game, they get, you see this boat over here, right here at the front? They get in that boat, and they drive it all the way over to the fish wheel. And it's a three-man operation. And what they do is they have one guy sit in that little booth, and one guy scoops the fish out of the fish hole, and another guy works the trough. And the trough is what they do is they take scale samples off each fish, they weigh them, they tag them, they sex them, they measure them, and they call all this information out to the guy in the booth, and the guy's writing it down on a Scantron sheet. And they put a tag. Fish.
That's a pink?
I couldn't tell. I think it was a sockeye. Wow.
Looks sockeye. It's actually pretty rare to see the fish, just given the number of spins in a day and how many fish are coming up the river, and the fact that it's only in one little spot on the side. But there you are, the fish wheel in Alaska. That was part of the work that I did. A very strange. Did you enjoy my office? Well, David Walker, don't they ship containers across the water to Russia and truck them across? Yeah, no. Especially not now. No, nothing's coming in by truck. And certainly not from Alaska. What you have to realize is that the waters from Alaska to Russia are some of the roughest waters in the world. Those are almost as bad as below the Cape Horn. Is it Cape Horn that's at the bottom of South America? Yeah, Cape Horn. I think the other one is Cape of Good Hope. Yeah, Cape Horn. So they're pretty rough waters. Well, anyway, I got new news. Let me switch gears here and give a shout out to Alec, who has been a longtime friend of the anadromist, and he has contributed another 50, and Alec will certainly be getting Georgian Music Files. And Alec is a filmmaker. Alec, if you want to write down the name of where they can find information about your films, be my guest in the contact section. And he's made some very interesting films, crime-oriented, sometimes very spiritually themed works. He did one that was kind of a takeoff on the Joker, the Batman villain, and he's done some that are kind of similar, shall we say, a little similar in theme to the movie Sound of Freedom. So, Alec, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And what's that do to our total now? Oh, no. 958. Okay. So now we need we only need $958 to bring in the money for the customs truck, and then another $2,000 after that. So we have less than $3,000 to go. We're going to make it. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. And thank you so much, everyone out there. I really appreciate this. Yeah, it was good to come on earlier than usual. I was thinking I might get more of the Europeans. So we got London, Tayo, thank you again. And yeah, we're doing well. We're doing well. I hadn't thought about this time. Maybe I'll drop in again soon at this time, maybe Monday or something. But Sunday, I am going to do a little later than this at the normal later time, which would be 10 o'clock at night for me or so, but earlier for, or maybe even later, because that's Sunday morning for many people. I have to think about it. But I'm going to invite some people on to talk about music and such. So where are we? We're sitting here making money. I'm seemingly just blabbing on and on and on. But now, you see what's happened. The way these fundraisers work is you do pretty good at the beginning, kind of plateaus, and then about 2/3 of the way in, you hit the valley. This always happens. And last night when I was doing the show, I really felt I was in the valley. I was kind of like clawing my way out. But what happens near the end is you start ramping out of the valley, especially when people know there's an end in sight. And this is really interesting psychology. I'm glad I learned this back when I used to work on radio and do fundraisers. So it causes you not to lose hope. And like I said, there's more people who haven't contributed from the channel yet. And I just have to figure out ways to make it interesting for people. I don't know, is this interesting? Probably not. But what is interesting is people start, see what happens at the end is people start getting invested in you making it. And that's what happens. It becomes a story. And as I've discussed before, everything is a story. So this is a story. You know, when you take a journey, my trips through Europe, they're all stories, really. So there's the planning. First, you get this idea. Like, I often think, how did I decide to go investigating? Oh, greetings, Richard. Thank you so much. Thank you. You get MVP status today, and you're going to get lots of Georgian music sent to you as well. Lots more. I think I sent you some already. Or did I? Oh, I'll check my resources. Thank you, Richard. So, yeah, Richard gave us the $200. So, by the way, you can get tax-deductible receipts, particularly if you go through GoFundMe, but I'm sure you can figure out another way through PayPal as well. But you know, like when you're going on a journey, the first thing, the most mysterious part is how you get the idea to go on the journey anyway. And I'm not talking about a vacation. A vacation is, you know, we need to go somewhere and we talk together. If it's two people in a family talking about where I really want to go to the Bahamas, and someone else says, no, I'd really like to go to, you know, Disney World. And someone else says, no, I'd really like to go to Alaska. And so, you know, you have these different kinds of things that come to you, but that's vacations, and vacations are different than journeys. So when I decided to take my journey in 2005, I was going to be gone from Alaska for 3 months. I had a 3-month leave of absence, but I was already starting to plan it. And I originally I'm very interested in World War II as well. And at that time I was thinking, like, here's what I'd like to do is I'd like to go to different World War II sites. Auschwitz, you know, look for various, you know, the Normandy coast, different other sites, transit camp here, a battleground there. And I thought I'd like to also go visit puppet theaters, because at this time I was much more interested in puppetry. And then I started looking at it, and one thing that was certain was that I was going to go there and I was going to spend 3 weeks at L'Abri, which was nice, L'Abri in Switzerland, because I was going to give lectures there, and it's just a good 3-week break. And then I spent a week traveling from L'Abri through the south of France up to Paris. And so then the next 2 months were the actual journey. But as I was looking at that journey, I started realizing, I can't do both. I did do a little bit of the World War II stuff. So I saw a Nazi transit camp in the middle of Holland, Netherlands. And then I did visit Auschwitz, and just being in Poland for the first time was just, you know, and I'm part Polish, so that was quite an experience. It just felt like the ground was bleeding there, bleeding history wherever you went. But here's what I learned about journeys. So what I decided was cut off most of the World War II stuff and just concentrate on the puppet stuff. And at that time, 2005, the internet was not nearly as, what can I say? Reliable is probably not the right word, because it's not reliable now. Organized would probably be a better way for it. So, for instance, there was a couple of stops on my puppet journey that I had no idea what would happen. Absolutely no idea. And they were stops that, you know, one was going to the International Puppetry School in Charleville-Mézières on the northern border of France, right next to Belgium. And I got there, and I just knew there was something like student performances going on. My French isn't that good, and it's better now, but you know, I didn't know anything. and this ended up being one of my most life-changing journeys. But so I went to these different countries and stuff. But one thing I realized is you go through these phases. It's a story. You start off full of hopes, but also anticipation, because you don't know exactly what you're going to do. You do know where you're going, but you don't know exactly how it's going to unfold. In the middle of it, you're just completely invested in the story of your journey, of what you're doing from place to place. And then as it starts to wind down, you start seeing the end of the journey. You start saying, eventually I've got to get back home. And in the case of the 2005 trip, the end of the journey was a crash. It was a total crash because I got laid. No, that's the wrong word. I got cruelly fired from my job for taking the leave of absence that I had permission to take. And thanks, Richard. I will continue. And so when I arrived broke, poor, and that's when I started doing puppetry in Alaska. I didn't make any money from it. It's just like, okay, no sense in letting life get you down. So we're going to take a break now. I'm going to play you a bit of music by my friend Eto. Her real name is Eteri, which is the Georgian version for Esther. And let's see if I can say her last name without butchering it. Okay. Skipurishvili. The Georgian word. But this is a Bach prelude. She is a classical pianist. And she's like, I've sat in the room with her playing, and I'm just in awe. Because, and one of the things that's also happened since I've been in Georgia is I connect more with classic Western culture here, which is really strange because I'm not exactly in Western Europe. Nevertheless, just because of the drift and the Soviet Union and all these other historical things, I feel more connected here than I did back in America, where people kind of like are too cool for classical music. But I'm going to play this. It's about 4 minutes long, and we are indeed still collecting money. As Richard said, keep asking. I'm asking. I'm not stopping. We have less than we only need. Did I even do that one? Okay, hold on. Yeah, so we need $958 to get to the $2,000 truck and customs fees, but we've already raised $8,000 besides that, so we've raised over $9,000. When we get to $10,000, I can feel confident that we'll get the rest of the way, and then I'll buy my plane ticket. So if we could do that today, wouldn't that be wonderful? But I'm going to keep plugging away because I don't have any shame. Let's listen to Eto playing Bach, a prelude. Enjoy. I'll be back in about 4 minutes. Okay, there you are, my friend Eto Skipurishvili. There, I did it. And every time I hear a new Georgian name and I ask the last name, I always have to ask them to repeat it because they're all kind of, a short name would be four syllables. Most of them are five, many of them are six. And so it's just, and then sounds sometimes kind of make you go crazy. So, good news again. We just had, let's see what we're doing here. We are bringing in the bacon. So, Stephanie Christos, who is also double dipping, has given us $58 to give us a nice even amount of $800 needed to finish this up. So thank you so much, Stephanie. I see we think alike. We don't like those pesky extra. This is why when Chad the alcoholic gave something in pennies, I was just like, no, don't do that. Make it in even numbers. And so, I thought I had done this. Anyway, so we have a new total $800 needed to get to the $2,000. So we've already gotten $1,200 of that. So we've made, basically on this whole thing so far, we've made $9,200. And we've made, since yesterday at this time, since I hadn't started the yesterday evening's fundraising pitch yet, we've made $676 since then, which heartens me so much because, all I can tell you is many of you would probably say, well, it must be easy just to make money like that. No, it isn't. Trust me. And for me, it's like I said, I go through a period where I'm like, why am I doing this? What if I don't get there? Why am I spending my life begging for money? And you just start going through these things. And what if I have to leave my stuff in Alaska? What if it never gets here? And what if? Those are the things that occasionally keep me up at 3 in the morning. I'll wake up and say, what am I doing with myself? Thank you, Stephanie. Yes, that was beautiful. Eto, I've been in the room with her. I first heard her playing at a museum where I was working, and she was giving a concert benefit for the museum, and I was just, to be in her presence is just incredible. That was a rather simple piece for her, and that was actually taken in Finland, where she was a student for several years, going to the next level. But when I met her, she was already so good, and just watching her play was just incredible. And I think there are many great Georgian musicians here who really they know how to get inside the music, because I often see people who are technically really good. They know how to play the notes, but they don't know how to get inside of music. For instance, when you watch my friend Eto play, and you can't see it so much in that one, I just picked it because it was short and had a nice sound. But I've watched her. She's played these pieces, I don't know, 50, 100 times. And it looks like she's playing it for the first time, that she's never played it, because you can feel her. She knows the keys. She knows what she's doing. And it's like, and I that's how I met her, as I went up and I said, it looks like you're playing all of these songs for the first time. And you're just letting the music come out. And she, as soon as she heard that, she recognized, oh, you actually know what you're watching. And so she became a very good friend as a result of that. And we spent time together talking. So let's see. Yeah, we now need only $800. If you happen to be just passing through, there are links below on the GoFundMe page. If you give through GoFundMe, in fact, I'm going to redo that again. If you give through the GoFundMe page, you can claim a tax-deductible receipt because it is a licensed nonprofit organization. And so, Bern, how were you able to know so many Georgian artists, musicians, and dancers? Yes, I can tell you interesting stories. Well, I learned a long time ago that musicians, dancers, artists, filmmakers, anybody is willing to talk to you if you actually have something to talk about, something they're interested in, if you really observe who they are. And this is just as true in New York City as it is here. I knew all sorts of people in New York City. And what I noticed is that there's a certain kind of a person who, in the presence of someone they like their music, they like their films or whatever, will immediately freeze up and go like, "Oh my God, I love your work so much. Oh, would you sign this?" And that person, depending on who they're talking to, some people don't get much of that, and so they're like, "Oh, really?" And other people get way too much of it, and they go, "Oh no, not another one." But one thing I've realized is that, they're people too. And what interests them? What interests them is not necessarily a recital of everything they've already done, because they know that they did that. It is nice if you can tell them exactly why a certain piece of music or a certain painting or a certain anything actually meant something to you. If you can tell them that, for instance, I think many artists would trade thousands of autographs for just one person who would come up to them and said, I was at the lowest point of my life, and I heard your piece of music. I saw your film. I read your book, and it really gave me an insight onto how I live and stopped me from plunging further down. If someone hears that, then they're like, really? But most people can't do that when they talk to people who are well known. So one thing I realize is most of the people who are well known have interests themselves, just like you do. So if you know their interests, and if you have anything worth saying about it, and if you talk with them about it, then you have something to talk about. And so there was a pretty famous musician in New York, played with the group the Sonic Youths. His name was Thurston Moore, and I could talk with him about electronic music and experimental music and avant-garde music because I knew about it, and we could converse. We became friendly on that basis. So that is how it works, is to get to know anyone. So before I even put my first toe into Georgia, I was already contacting people through Facebook and through email numbers, addresses I would find, and saying, "I liked your movie. Your photography is really interesting. Your music is really fascinating to me. If you speak English, would it be possible for me to meet you?" So I had 3 very important people lined up before I got here, and they opened other doors for me. That is the secret that I have employed. And since then, I just keep going. One person will recommend something, I'll go to someplace else, and that's how it works. Well, let me stop and play another piece of music while you're deciding if you want to give and receive, for instance, Georgian music files. In fact, speaking of Georgian music files, I'm going to play you, let's see. This is one of the ones that would be possibly something like this would be in I have collections of 50 Georgian music files each. So this is actually a church singing group. Now, don't think, if you're a Protestant, you're probably saying, "Oh no, a church choir." Don't think that. Georgians take their church music extremely seriously. And it is, when you go in, there's no choir of amateurs. I mean, they may not be paid professionals, but they're not amateurs either. They know their music, and this is very important to them. And it is polyphonic, harmonic music, but it's also extremely, it just catches you up. And I've heard music sometimes in churches that just made me want to, it just sent chills through me, what the French call frisson, goose pimples and things like that. And so now you'll notice a guy in here who's got lighter hair. His name is John Graham. He's a very good friend of mine, and I interviewed him about Georgian folk music, and that's over on my Georgian Crossroads channel. Let's listen to this. It's a couple of minutes long, and it's a Georgian church group. And they're singing in a monastery that's out near the town of Mitsketa. which is the next small city up from here, but a very important city for religious institutions here in Georgia. Oh, very beautiful piece of Vespers music for the Georgian Orthodox Church here. And that's the kind of thing that's also included in the Rare Georgian Music Files. And so if you want that, that's how you get it. So we're doing well. We're up $676 since yesterday at this time, and that's wonderful. And I do have, just to remind everyone, I'm pretty sure I've cycled through most of the people who were here at the beginning, but just to remind you, I am on a January 31st deadline because I've learned that not only are there problems in the Red Sea because of what's going on there, and that's causing real shipping problems, but it looks like my stuff will have to go down, instead of going across the Pacific Ocean, down, around, and up through the Suez Canal, it'll probably have to go down across the Panama Canal, across the Atlantic Ocean, and through the Mediterranean that way. But anyway, instead of taking a month and a half, I'm pretty sure it's going to take 2.5 to 3 months. And that puts a lot of pressure on me to get my temporary license renewed in July. And so I need to get this here as soon as possible. The only way I can do that is to get to Alaska as soon as possible. And the only way I can do that is to get my ticket as soon as possible. And I'm not even going to think about getting my ticket until, well, I have been thinking about it. I've been doing research, but I'm not going to even think about that until I get up to 10,000, which we are only $800 away from. When I get there, I will go ahead and buy my ticket because I think I can trust that I will raise the other $2,000. But, you know, everything in its time. So who else is out there? Anyone else want to identify themselves, say hello? Feel free. And if you don't have much money, you can give a very small amount. I've had people, I think $2.89 was the smallest amount I had. A couple days ago, I had $3. Michael Stasevich keeps giving these little amounts of money, and he does that to kind of prime the pot, prime the flow of money. But yeah, we're doing well. So got another 40 minutes or so on this. I suppose if there was a big inrush of people, I would keep going. But the way I'm feeling right now is we're doing good, and I think I can get more. I think I'm getting a little bit more European eyes at this time of day. Maybe you let me know where you're from. So let's see. Yeah, I was talking about trips, journeys being like stories, and and you start to feel, and when you come to the end of that trip, it's like a death. It's like a death because you're no longer traveling. You've stopped. You've arrived home. And to me, that's like when I take a good journey, that's like a metaphor of life. And I think that's really fascinating that we live in such a way that, even the little stories we do are like our lives, and there are all sorts of patterns and rhythms to these things. Like I said, there's a pattern and a rhythm to these fundraisers. They start off usually pretty good. You hit a plateau for a while, and then you go down into a valley, which I think we're out of now. And then towards the end, everyone gets more invested in the story. And as people get invested in the story, they want to know, is it going to work? Is Bern going to get there? Will Bern get, the $12,000? And I'll give you a little hint. It's a little more than $12,000 because $12,000 is what I need. But guess what? These people take money out. And so I'm going to have to figure out a way to make that money up too. So, but yeah, it's quite an interesting thing to do these, and quite nerve-wracking at the same time. Keeps me up at night. I'm looking to see what else we've got here. Okay, so I got one piece of music there, another piece there. What is that one? Oh, so two. Yeah, I think I've got two more pieces of music, so I will save them for a little later. But does anyone have any questions out there? Stephanie asked a very good question about how I get to know so many people. And the point is that I'm interested in what they're interested in. I'm interested in what makes them up, what are their musical influences? If it's a traditional music, when did they first start listening to it? Did they grow up around it, or did they discover it through recordings? I'm interested in, filmmakers. It's like, really tell me about your influences, because that's what we want. I don't want someone to come up and just talk to me about me. I mean, I suppose there are people who want that to happen, but I want to talk to them about life, about things. And that's how you meet people, is by doing that. If I, one of the things that all of this fundraising tells me is that I'm doing something good here, because not that there's any direct equation between raising money and whether people can are getting something from what you're doing. There isn't. And in fact, some people can't afford to give. I have very good friends who haven't given, and they'll say they're really strapped for money. And I know they kind of are. And at the same time, I know they could give. But you know what? I'm not holding anything against anybody, because they've given in the past. And in this thing, this is part two of a major push. The first part got me the room I'm sitting in the house, and all the space I have now to bring my library. So this is the hard part. Sometimes when I think about the practical details along the way, I'm just like, how is this going to happen? What's going to happen when I get to the border? And how, I was just talking yesterday. One of the things I did yesterday around this time was I went for a walk. And I do that in the afternoon sometimes, just take a walk to stretch my brain, get it functioning. And I ended up at this bookstore that I think someone had mentioned it to me, but I'd never found it before, and it's actually relatively new. They only opened the bookstore. It's called Bookman Bookstore, or in Georgians, Bookmani. They always add an E to the end of things. But I met this girl there. There were a couple people. One, I'd seen them before. They were in another bookstore, but evidently they work kind of as distributors for a lot of English books in Georgia. And they decided to make their own little store. So I got to talking with them, and I said, hey, I can maybe help you out. I know the American scene a bit. Let me look there and see if there's a good way to get things sent from America. The problem is it takes a long time. It to get things, 3 months to get things from America. But I told them, everyone gets a lot of the books you're getting. But if you want to sell books, you need to get the books they're not getting. And since you're going through England, you're getting the English books, but you need to get some American books because we have so many more. I would say the English are better readers than the Americans. I think the Czechs are better readers than Americans. I think the French are probably better readers than Americans. But there's so many more Americans with so many different kinds of interests. So let's see, what do we got here? Andre, welcome. Come on, people, let's get burned. Yes, thank you, Andre. And, oh, that's a new face. Dali, is it Dal or Dali Bo for now? Hey, well, hey to you too. Glad to have you. So we're doing well, Andre. We need $800 to get the truck and customs money together out of the $2,000 for that, and we've already got the $6,000 for the freighter and the $2,000 for the barge down the west coast from Alaska to Seattle, Washington. And after this $800, then we just need the $2,000 for the plane ticket money for me to get there. And like I said, I'm under a new deadline to get my airplane ticket. So basically, as soon as I get to $10,000, I can trust that I will be able to raise the other $2,000 at that time, and we will get. I will get my airplane ticket as soon as possible. So, for instance, if I was to get the $800 by, say, Sunday, I would immediately go and buy my tickets. Now, there is one special thing, and this is important for people either in America or Europe, North America or Europe. Some of you like some of the ideas that I have. As you know, I was invited last year to speak at the Bridges, not last year, it's now almost a year and a half since I spoke at the Bridges of Meaning Festival with Paul Vanderklay in Germany. I've also given quite a few lectures in Switzerland about all the kinds of stuff I talk about here, and I put some of them online, but I have a whole bunch more waiting for us in Alaska. But here's the thing. Once I get to Alaska and pack the container and say farewell to the container, that will be a moment when I say goodbye to the container, because then now the thing on my mind is there are these sites where you can follow the progress of your freighter ship, and I will be watching those very carefully. But once you get to that, then I have 3 months until I'm going to see that again. So if someone is interested in me stopping in their neck of the woods and giving a lecture or a talk or whatever, a demonstration about music or something, talk about music or art or music or film or whatever, think about it. One of the things that I am open to is if you think you can raise the money for me to stop along the way, which will require some extra airline money for me to stop in your vicinity on the way back to Georgia, and if you can put me up somewhere, which probably wouldn't cost a lot of money, and if you could just give me a little nibble of money, then I could stop somewhere along the way coming back, since I have a good period of time before I have to actually get that stuff. And since I have a fairly loose schedule. So if anyone hears what I'm saying, I will make a video about this fairly soon, but think about it. I need to get that out before I have to get the tickets, because that involves the tickets. So just saying. So what do we got here? Is it beneficial in your eyes to learn traditional American music? Where are you, Professor Luigi? What are you in America, or are you in Europe somewhere? I assume you're in one of those two places. That doesn't sound like it would be at all Japanese or Indian or South African or something, or African, or even Latin American. Maybe you're in Latin America. There's enough Italians in Buenos Aires, but let me know where you're from, and then I'll let you know, because it makes a difference of where you are. If you're an American, I would say absolutely. And I have a series that I've been kind of thinking about for years, and I've actually blocked it out and started collecting examples of 100 traditional songs. I put traditional in quotes because it's not just simply folk music, but okay, so you're in America. So yeah, absolutely. 100 American songs I think people should know. And I would put it out in increments of 5. And the reason is because you need to be connected. Knowing the music of your country is knowing the history as well. And when I was young, there was still this thing called the folk revival. And the folk revival, also Irish, yeah, well, there's a lot of that in America. The folk revival has a lot of, there are a lot of songs that were just kind of in the air. I grew up knowing, I mean, I had no trouble at all thinking of at least 100 songs everyone should know. And I stopped at a certain point. So for instance, I stopped at maybe the end of the 60s. And the reason for that is, once you get to the hippie period and into the 70s and such, the music ceases to have, begins to stop having any sort of traditional connection to the roots of American music. And the roots of American music being Irish Celtic music, English, Irish, British Celtic music, Anglo-Celtic, we'll call it. French, Europe, Western European more than anything. But first, the big root is Anglo-Irish and Anglo-Celtic and Western African through the slaves, but not any specific spot in Western Africa. Due to the nature of the slave trade, everything got mixed up, but certain elements came. So those are the two main roots. Black and white in America are the main ingredients. It's like those are the substances. Now, later on, there's all sorts of other things that get added to the mix. Pinch of Italian here, a little bit of Swedish there, some German there, and such like that. But I was able to, because, and I didn't have to think about it all that much. I immediately came up with 100 names and then started thinking of the other ones. I said, okay, well, this one's more important than that one. I mean, obviously, one of the most important songs in American history would be Amazing Grace, which actually comes from England originally. But it just is such an important song, and so many people have done different versions of it. On the other end, in that zone in the early 60s, you have a song like Louie Louie, of which hundreds and hundreds of versions have been made, but obviously there are a few classic versions. And even though that song is not a great, deep song, it is nevertheless something I think every American should know, because that's part of who we are, this kind of really strange thing. And there are gospel songs, and there are blues, and there are pop songs from the early 20th century. But again, my basic criteria is that they connect to the basic roots: blues, jazz, gospel, country, minstrel music, barbershop quartets, Tin Pan Alley pop music and stuff. But once you cross that 60s Rubicon, all the bets are off, because, and there are a few songs, like I was thinking of Tom Petty's, what is the song he has? Don't Look Back? No. I Won't Back Down. Tom Petty's Won't Back Down is one I would say, like, that's in future videos, maybe that one would show up as well. And it's it's an 80s song. But, when you listen to most of the pop, like almost no pop music now has folk roots at all anymore. It's all just electronic, synthetic stuff. It's all about the production, not about the history or the roots. So anyway, what else have we got here? I heard you also mention Tom Verlaine in one of your videos. Yes. Could you speak more about his music? Also, ever heard of this band called Tire Tire? I assume that's French. No, I don't know anything about that band. And Tom Verlaine, very excellent guitarist. I mean, I got to know him because I was buying and selling record collections, and I bought and sold his, not his whole collection. What he would do to learn guitar riffs is he would see an album, Hawaiian guitar music, Hawaiian electric guitar music, Caribbean guitar music, strange guitar music from the 1950s, some sort of country and western guy doing strange things on a slide guitar. He would buy these, he would listen for sounds, he would learn the ones he liked, and then I ended up selling hundreds and hundreds of his records, and he was an excellent guitar player. He was a bit allergic, though, to the public. And so after the initial phase of the group television and then his solo stuff, you'll notice there's a big valley where you don't hear much from him. And unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago. But I was actually surprised he made it that long. I never was around the guy when he wasn't smoking and wasn't coughing terribly. And so, but no, I got to know him well. I knew him, I knew his girlfriend. I went over to his house to pick up, I figured out the system of selling used records where I would go. This was in the 1980s, early 1990s, where I would go and I'd take all these records, process them, and then rather than pay for them all, which is an outlay of money, I would say, we will split the profits 3 ways. You will get 1/3, I will get 1/3 for processing them and buying and taking them, and the owner of the store where we're putting them in gets 1/3. And it worked quite well. He made a lot of money. So he would come in every other week or so for his payment of money. And of course, in the beginning, it was much more than it would eventually dwindle down. But for over a year or two, I was paying out money because I took hundreds of records from him. So what else have we got here? I had a chance to go to the birthplace of country music in Bristol, Virginia. I hate to tell you that, but that wasn't the birthplace of country music. But I understand why they're saying that. They're saying that because of the Carter family, most likely. Very interesting collection of early country music and its roots of gospel and bluegrass. Although I wouldn't say bluegrass actually comes out of country music, so it's not a root of country music. And gospel music goes in a very odd sort of way, but there is a lot of gospel bluegrass music. But yeah, but don't get me started on that. So it's time for music, speaking of which. And let me remind you of what you're doing. I've got a nice 10 people or so watching. We are fundraising. We're doing well. Since yesterday at this time, I've made over $667 coming on a couple of times. That's good. It's work. And I have a deadline now, January 31st. And people have been very generous. We've had Stephanie and Alec and Tayo and Caleb and Richard Lund and Nick Evans and Mary Schubert and Michael Stasovich in the last day, since around this time yesterday. So that's really good. I'm not done. I need $800 to get the $2,000 truck and customs money, but we've already got the $2,000 barge money and the $6,000 freighter money of our $12,000 overall cost. So we now need only $2,800, and it's pretty much done, except for I have to go back and get some of the money that was taken from me from these wonderful folks that will handle the money for us, and that's how they make their money. So yeah, the recording studio is now a hotel. Many are. So let's see, what have I got here that I want to play for us? Let's see what this is. Okay, I got a nice, okay, one more Georgian. What is this? Frank D'Annunzio. Let's play this. I can't remember what it is, but I'm sure it's good. And remember, the links are down below in the description. PayPal, and if you really want to give some money, GoFundMe is great. Or if you're kind of in a funky country, GoFundMe will work. It works in Georgia. If it works here, it'll probably work anywhere. And that's also a good place if you give more money and you want a tax-deductible receipt, go through GoFundMe. So here we go, Frank D'Annunzio. what are you going to make of that? Actually, I have a lot of this music, and I have a lot of it on DVD. Early musical recordings from the late 20s into the 30s and 40s. There's some amazing stuff that's been captured. I found that one really funny. And the guy playing the bass, you couldn't really hear it, but his whole movements of jumping up and down, and I thought that was really great. Yeah, the bass player is getting cardio for the day, indeed. And but oddly enough, that music is like filled with roots in a way that most of our music today isn't. And I could easily pick it apart and show you where they were coming from, but you know, we're not doing a music lecture here. So, okay, still need $800, but you know, I'm feeling good. I didn't come on here expecting anything. I just came on and said, let me come on at a different time, see if I can get anybody interested in contributing some more. I'm feeling good now. Like I say, as soon as I get that $800, I'm going to buy some tickets. But before I do that, I need to get my, I need to get in touch to see if anybody wants me. So I need to put out a short video suggesting that if anyone wants me to stop on the way, they should let me know and put a deadline on that for me. So. Yeah, that Frank D'Annunzio's orchestra. No, I have all these strange, it's amazing. These were kind of like novelty acts, but as novelty acts, they were also, like that relates totally to circus and carnival music, which originates in Europe as part of carnival. But it also connects to jazz, and it connects to American folk music. If you can do this in your head, strip away all the xylophones and such, and now play it with a banjo, you can start to imagine where the music comes from, which is harder. Although every now and then I'll take a Taylor Swift song and I'll break it down and go like, oh no, that song is really a country song. It just doesn't sound like it, you know? So like she has this song, you know, hi, I'm the problem, it's me. And I immediately said, oh, it's a country song. It's like, hi, I'm the problem, it's me. Hi, dear, I'm the problem, it's me. And I immediately took it apart. Of course, she comes from country music, which is I think that's one of the secret sauces to Taylor Swift, because she isn't coming from simply pop music, but she's coming from a kind of a country pop music, but she's been exposed to, I don't think her knowledge of country music goes that deep, although her knowledge of popular country music of the last, say, 3 decades or so probably runs fairly well. And so I can hear what's underneath a sound, so that it's just interesting. Like I did with I played Popcorn earlier as a bluegrass piece, because that electronic sound, when you first hear it as electronic music, it sounds like someone's winding up a toy or something. But then suddenly when you hear it on a banjo, it's like, oh my goodness, that's just like straight from the hills. So there's a lot of classic music that is buried. Okay, what do we got here? Greetings. Oh, Ups is here. Glad to see you. You were just coming in yesterday when I was leaving, and we're doing well, Ups. We only need $800 to get the $2,000 for the truck and customs money, and that's good. And then all we have left, so this whole thing will end at $2,800, which is amazing when you think about it, because we started with $12,000. Now, of course, if you do a little bit of economic inflationary thought, you'll realize a couple of years ago I tried for $10,000. You know what? That $10,000 felt essentially the same as the $12,000 does now, because of the inflation values. That's also why, had I been able to bring my library over here, say 3 or 4 years ago, it would have been like more like $8,000 or $9,000 for the whole thing. And that's another reason why I want to get it as soon as possible, because it's just going to go up. And also, I like I say, I have my big deadline is that my temporary residence visa, not visa, but permanent, is up in the middle of July. And I've got to try to get this here before that. I'm not, because I was told by the shippers, it'll be much easier to get through customs if you have it. Now, I'm expecting to keep it, but I can't be 100% sure. And if there's any chance that I can't, I'm not going to play around with that. So that's why this suddenly became something I had to do. That and the fact there's a 3-month shipping issue going around, who knows what, through the Panama Canal now, because the Suez Canal is kind of blocked. So there we are. I'm glad to see you guys are all saying hello to each other down there. I feel like I have a little group of people. But then again, you guys are, raise your hands. How many are Paul Vanderklay people? How many people are Peugeot people? I think a lot of people started off as Peterson people. But then again, things have changed a lot. And I have been thinking about doing an updated How We Got Here series. But there's too much unresolved stuff right now. I can't do it. I can't do a How We Got Here until we finish up with this Ukrainian war and what's going on in Israel. The Ukrainian one more than the Israel one, because one suspects, okay, I don't know, you're a PVK fan. Yeah, the Israel one goes on into history, so I can't wait for a resolve to that. But some people say the Ukrainian war is probably going to wind up sometime this year. Hopefully, well, because there are many possibilities where it won't be well, or it just could drag on and on and on. And since I'm sitting next door to it, that matters. But I've decided, it's time to bring the stuff here. So let's see, we got about 9 minutes before I'm off. If anyone's got any final questions, thoughts, or would like to contribute a little bit more money to make us feel hopeful, that would do it. Like I say, I'm not going to get my plane tickets until I get that next 800. Then we have 2,000 after that. So, yeah. Well, like I was saying, I'm 68 years old, and you know what? I have lots of challenges in life, and I don't mean the kind of challenges. I'm actually physically doing all right. I try to get a certain amount of walking done every week. Sometimes I'll walk to a movie theater. I was thinking of doing that today, but then I said, let's do this. But the point is, when you run out of things to do, that's when your health starts to decline. And I've noticed this in older people. And I have a friend who's a couple years older than I am, and he's already living in some sort of institution. And that would what are you talking about? His wife died about 2 or 3 years ago, and they were living in an institution because her health had gone down. And she was a couple years older than I am as well. And, and I think to myself, oh man, I got so much time left. Now, maybe I don't. I could drop dead tomorrow. Then the big question is what happens to all my stuff? I'd rather have I've never made a will because I'm waiting for all my stuff to get here. Because meanwhile, and the most important stuff that I have are not my books and records and such, although those are very important. And I want to get them here and I want to pass them on. But the most important stuff I have is all my journals and all my photos and all the CDs and tapes of lectures that I've given. Those are the things that I really want here. And you'll all benefit from that as well. It will give me a newfound burst of energy. So let's see what's going on. I remember people mentioning in the past that the worst part ever was a novelty act called the Shags. Now, the Shags were not a novelty act. The Shags were an extremely primitive amateur act. The difference between a novelty act and an amateur act is the following. A novelty act can be really good musicianship. Those people that we just heard in the Frank D'Annunzio mini orchestra were actually very good musicians. They were just playing in a very unique, comical kind of way. Novelty is almost always comical. There's another category as well, avant-garde art, which can sometimes seem like novelty, but really isn't. But the Shags were, I think it's 3 sisters who are playing in their father's garage, and their music is so bad that people just loved it for how bad it was. And this is one of the first bands that people started liking in a very postmodern way. In the 60s, when this group was making their music, nobody liked their music. Because in the 60s, talent was still important to people. They did, kind of as a vanity project, put out a record, but talent was important. But now, it isn't talent that's important. It's whether you can capture our attention. And the Shags, when you hear their music, I'd recommend going it up. I'm going to get going here. How do you foresee yourself remaining in Georgia? Till I die? That's people say, how long are you going to stay here, Bernard? I don't know, until I can find a tombstone. So that's how I'm looking at it. Well, I'm going to pack up pretty soon. What have we got here? Thanks for the clarification. I guess that Leona Anderson with Rats in the Room is a novelty act. Yeah, if a thing is made to be weird, that's a novelty act. Now, we don't really have novelty acts that become hits very often anymore. I think one of the last ones was that song, the Blue World, Doobie Doobie Doo Blah, that weird Italian song. That was a novelty act. Macarena was like a novelty act back in the late 90s. I'm trying to think of anything since then that's been a hit. I mean, there's been weird stuff that's made. And there have been people who've been digging out all this old stuff that was made. There's a woman who did this song about Canada that's really funny. But these are amateurs. These are what in art we would call it art brut, or primitive art, or outsider art. This is stuff made by people who don't know much about the music industry and make these weird things. And they have a certain amount of passion. And I think people hear the passion in that music. No, Weird Al Yankovic is a novelty act. Yeah, he is. Weird Al Yankovic, you're right, is the definition of a novelty act for our day. Because he specifically does stuff, they're funny, but they're done in a funny sort of way. Yes, he would be a novelty act. So, I'm going to get out of here soon. I don't want to go over 2 hours because this will go over, if I don't go over 2 hours, this will go directly over into my Odyssey account where I keep records of things. Sometimes they go over and that's fine. But anyway, thank you so much. I feel, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Alec, Tayo, Caleb, Nick Evans from yesterday, Mary from yesterday, Megan before that, Michael Stasevich, the eternal small amount giver. Thank you so much. And thank you for making me feel like what I'm doing is important and worth something to you. And even if in the small way of giving money, it's more importantly, what's great about this is we get to know each other a bit more through the chat thing. And look for me Sunday, a bit later than this in the day, maybe. And we'll be back. I think we'll have a talk about music then, but it'll be loose, so you can make your comments, give your money. And this is Bern from Tbilisi, Georgia, saying "Drola beat," which remember means temporarily. We're just going to be gone from each other a little while, then we'll be back. Georgians always love that when I leave someplace. They go like "Drola beat," and then they go "Drola beat." They really love it because I know what it means. And that is to say, we're now friends. I'll be back. And I will be back. So, Nahuamdis, goodbye, farewell, and we will meet again.